going on? Zach from Stable Minded here. This is a Stable Spotlight at ETH Denver 2025. I'm sitting down here with Andy from Agant. They're building GBPA, which is a pound sterling stablecoin. So very excited to sit down. It's one of our first talks with somebody building in the non-USD stablecoin space. So Andy, thanks for coming on. Tell us a little bit about what you've been building, man.
Yeah, first, thanks for having me. Awesome to be in Denver, never been before. So we're building a UK domiciled, UK regulated GBP stablecoin. The idea kind of started as a little bit of an accident, a sort of spontaneous conversation with some lawyers. Basically, the Bank of England and the FCA had published some discussion papers back in November 2023 about the use of stablecoins in both retail and systemic payment systems in the UK. And I sort of just put the question to some lawyers. I was involved in a different blockchain project back then. And I said, what's your views on building a UK domiciled and regulated pound-backed stablecoin? And they said, look, it reminds us where e-money regulation was back in 2012, where the businesses that went away and built a product, then took it to the regulators and said, look, how can we innovate in a compliant fashion? They were the ones that had the most success. So I had actually done a lot of work on Solana with sort of previous endeavors. So I paid my 10 USDC and emailed Anatoly and said, look, what's your views on this? And funnily enough, quite to my surprise, he came straight back and he introduced me to Anna Yan and Ben at Solana Foundation, and Anna and I jumped on a call shortly thereafter, and it's sort of the rest is history.
Sorry to cut you off. So GBPA, where are you at right now in your growth cycle? What chains are you live on? Do you have any insights into even where what's the volume looking like?
Yeah, so we are live on mainnet, but we're not launched because we're currently going through the regulatory process at the moment. Yeah, exactly. We don't want to piss them off, so to speak. So yeah, we're working with working closely with both the FCA and the Bank of England, and in how we can shape the regulatory discussion. Because obviously, while there's stablecoin legislation in both Europe and we've seen the recent publications in the US. The UK is still trying to get to that point where it has specific legislation. So we're trying to work out the arguments that we need to put forward to the regulators to ensure that we can go live in before 2027. We don't really want to sit on our hands.
How has the MiCA regulations come through Europe? How has that affected your go-to-market? Any impact there?
I think it's probably shown us what not to do and what we don't necessarily want to be like. I mean, I think if from a regulatory approach, if there's any sort of legislation that you want to look at and you want to sort of emulate yourself on, it's the NYDFS framework in New York. You look at some other regulatory jurisdictions like Abu Dhabi and Singapore, and they basically say in their sort of publications, look, we looked at what the NYDFS did and we really like it, and that's the way that we think a stablecoin should look, and that's sort of how we've shaped ourselves over the last 12 months since we started this.
And so help paint the picture. Where do you see non-USD stablecoins going? We see, everybody knows USDC, USDT, USDG starting from Paxos, from Global Dollar. They're starting to see some headway. Where do you see this fitting in the bigger narrative? Because I'd say from my general experience, you even mentioned EuroC from Circle, and it's kind of just it feels like a little bit of an afterthought right now for the industry. So what made you so bullish on to come out and build this stablecoin?
I think it's a combination of things. There's a lot of timing that's come into this. I remember being at the Digital Asset Summit in London in March of last year, and I think the title for the conference was "The Institutions Are Coming." And then, you're listening to guys like Kai Sheffield, and they turn around and say, every financial services company needs a stablecoin strategy, and basically now every corporate needs a stablecoin strategy. So I think timing is a massive aspect. 2 or 3 years ago, we were still trying to get our heads around US dollar stablecoins, whereas now I think it's even how we paint ourselves as a business. We very much say that we're a FinTech utilizing blockchain rails as opposed to a crypto business, and I think having that separation is really, really important, because for us the use cases are very much going to be more institutional and potentially like abstracting the blockchain element away from the retail user. I don't necessarily see it as being sort of traditional crypto. Yes, there'll be a presence on chain, but for us, where we're seeing the growth and the level of interest that's from sort of traditional financial services that want to utilize blockchain rails for very specific use cases.
Man, that's so fascinating. And so moving forward, if somebody's watching this right now, watching the Stable Spotlight, why would they reach out to you? What are you looking for? Why are you at ETH Denver right now?
Combination, money. This doesn't happen for free. Trying to do things in a compliant fashion is very, very expensive, but the payout is also very lucrative. I think the way in which we're trying to shape ourselves as an organization is trying to do everything the right way. And obviously, we see sort of recent events. There's a lot of things that tarnish sort of the crypto brand. So that's something that we're trying to change in the UK. But for us, I think there's sort of 4 key funnels that we see real opportunity. So, it's very similar to the US dollar use cases. Settlement, it's as a settlement asset, domestic settlement asset, a collateral asset, FX, and also remittance. I think.
And how big? I think a lot of viewers right now, this is something that doesn't get talked about a lot. How big is the FX market?
Well, GBP is the fourth most traded FX currency, globally, daily. So it's quite significant. I do think FX is chunky. I don't think many people realize just how much is traded over the counter still. The settlement, the settlement processes of FX, etc. Having this homogeneous layer between intercontinental payment systems is really, really important. And London, for all its woes, is still a very important financial center globally, and it's important that they are on chain, same as the US, Singapore, and Man,
that's so fascinating. I think we're running up on time here. But Andy, this is a great conversation. This is a great run for the first Stable Spotlight at ETH Denver, and hopefully we'll have you back on the podcast to do a proper deep dive.
Yeah, I'd love it.
I'm sure we just scratched the surface.
I'd love a deep dive.
Man.
Pleasure.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.